The most dangerous moment is not when someone tries to embarrass you. It's the half second right after, that tiny pause where everyone looks at you to see if you're going to laugh, go quiet, snap back, or completely lose it. That pause is the real trap, because the person who just embarrassed you isn't only watching you, they're watching the whole room too, checking whether they can turn your discomfort into a little bit of entertainment for everyone else. And here's the part almost nobody understands. The response that actually stops them cold isn't a sharp comeback, and it's not a bigger insult thrown right back at them either. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to do in that half second, and it's going to change how people treat you for good. So let's slow the whole thing down and actually look at what's happening in that moment. Someone says something sharp, maybe about your job, your weight, your relationship, your age, your car, or that one mistake from 3 years ago that apparently nobody forgot. And right after, they smile, because that smile is doing a job of its own. It's saying, don't make this a big deal. It's saying, I get to hurt you a little, and you're supposed to just pretend it didn't land. Then comes the escape hatch. I'm just playing. Or, chill, it's a joke. Or the one that really flips the whole table around, wow, you're so sensitive. And just like that, nobody's thinking about what they said anymore. Now everyone's looking at you instead, waiting to see if you're about to make things weird. That's the trap right there. The comment was just the bait. Your reaction is the actual show they came for. Most people fall for it in one of two ways. The first way, you get loud. You snap back with something sharp, maybe even sharper than what they said. And somehow, even though they started it, you end up looking upset while they stay calm, and now you're the one who took it too far. The second way, you shrink. You laugh a little too hard. You say, haha yeah, and look down at your food, and the moment passes, and everyone moves on. Except you don't really move on, because you're replaying that sentence in the shower that night, and probably the night after that too. Both of those reactions give the other person exactly what they were after, which is a reaction, something to point at, something that proves their little comment actually landed. So here's the real move, and it's not about being louder or smaller, it's about being slower. The first step is simple. You wait 1 second before you say anything at all. Not a dramatic movie stare, nothing theatrical, just 1 normal second where your face stays soft and your body stays still. Why does that 1 second matter so much? Because cruelty depends on speed. It needs everyone to laugh fast so nobody actually stops to think about what was just said. The moment you slow it down, even by a single second, the joke stops feeling like a joke and starts feeling like a sentence somebody has to answer for. The second step is one simple question, said calm and a little curious, never angry, never wounded. Wait, what did you mean by that? Say it slow, and say it like you actually want to know, because honestly, in a strange way, you do. Here's what makes that question so powerful. It doesn't let them hide behind the joke anymore. Now they've got 2 options. Either they actually explain what they meant, out loud, in front of everyone, which means the mean part can't hide behind a laugh anymore, and everyone hears it plainly, or they backtrack completely. Oh, nothing, forget it, I was just kidding, which basically tells the whole room the comment couldn't survive being looked at directly. Either way, you didn't yell, you didn't call them out, you didn't give a speech about respect. You just asked a question, and questions are so much harder to dodge than insults are to throw. Let's put this somewhere real. Say you're at work, and in a meeting someone says, wow, didn't expect a good idea from you. A few people laugh a little, because that's just what people do when things get awkward. You don't join that laugh, you pause, and then you say calmly, what do you mean, didn't expect? Notice what you did there. You didn't fight the whole sentence, you just picked the one part that actually stung and pointed right at it. That's really the whole skill. Cruel comments are built to feel like one big cloud of embarrassment, and your job is just to grab one piece of that cloud and hold it up to the light. That same thing works at a family dinner. Someone says, you were always the difficult one growing up. You don't need to defend your entire childhood over dessert. You just say, what do you mean by difficult? And then you stop talking. And this next part is where almost everyone messes it up. After you ask the question, you have to let it sit there, because silence feels so uncomfortable that most people rush in to fill it themselves. They ask the question, and then 2 seconds later they add, I mean, I know I can be a lot sometimes, so, and just like that, they've done the other person's job for them. Don't do that. Ask, and then stop talking, and let them sit in their own sentence for once. That silence isn't awkward for you, it's awkward for them, so let it finally be their problem. Now some people won't even try to explain, they'll just laugh it off harder. Oh my God, relax, it was literally just a joke. Don't get pulled into arguing whether it was a joke or not, And don't say something like, well, it didn't feel like a joke to me, because that just gives them something new to fight about. Instead, you say one soft, simple sentence. Okay, explain the joke then. Calm voice, normal face, no drama in your tone at all. Why does that work so well? Because a real joke can survive being explained. If it was actually funny, saying it a second time out loud won't change that. But if the joke only worked because it made you feel small, explaining it kills it instantly, because nobody can explain, I was making you look dumb in front of everyone, and still come across as a fun person. You're not trying to humiliate them back here, and that part really matters. This isn't revenge, because revenge is about hurting someone the same way they hurt you. This is a boundary instead, and a boundary just says, this pattern stops here, with me, right now. Sometimes, instead of backing down, people push even harder. They roll their eyes. They say, you're making this so weird. They say, everyone else thought it was funny, and they try to pull the whole room onto their side, so suddenly, it feels like it's you against everybody. Don't chase the room. Don't start scanning faces to see who's agreeing with you, because that turns the whole thing into a performance, and a performance is exactly what the other person wants. Just bring it back to the one person who actually spoke. Say, I'm asking you, or I want to understand what you meant, and keep it simple, quiet, and direct. This one move is quietly powerful, because embarrassment usually works by making you feel outnumbered. But you're not actually talking to a room, you're talking to one person who said one sentence, so keep it right there. There's another version of this that's a little trickier, because it doesn't come dressed as a joke at all, it comes dressed as concern. Someone says, I'm only telling you this because I care, but people have been talking about how you've been acting lately. That sentence feels soft, but it isn't really soft, it's slippery. It sounds like they're helping you, but it might actually be a warning shot wrapped in nicer paper. Don't panic, and don't jump straight to, who is people? Not yet. Start smaller instead, and ask, what exactly have they been noticing? That one word, exactly, changes the whole thing, because it pulls the conversation out of the fog. Vague comments love fog, since fog is where guilt grows without any real reason behind it. But specific words either hold up under pressure, or they fall apart the second someone actually tries to say them clearly. If the concern is real, they'll be able to explain it kindly and clearly. If it's not, you'll watch the whole thing quietly crumble right in front of you. Now let's talk about the sneakier version of all this, not the loud comment in front of everyone, but the quiet dig from someone close to you. A little joke about your choices when nobody else is around. A little reminder of a mistake from years ago. A tiny comment about your confidence, said with a smile, timed just right, so it stings a bit longer than it should. One time like that might genuinely be nothing, since people have off days, and people say clumsy things sometimes, without meaning much by it. But watch the pattern, not just the single moment. If the same person keeps poking the same bruise over and over, and then acts confused every time you react, that's not clumsy anymore. That's a pattern. Here's what you say to that, and it's not, why are you so mean to me, because that turns it into a fight about their personality. Instead, you keep bringing that up. What are you hoping happens when you say it? That question does something clever, because it doesn't attack who they are, it just asks about what the behavior is actually for, and people who like dropping little jabs almost never want to talk about the purpose behind them. They'd much rather talk about your reaction, because your reaction is a lot easier to criticize than their own pattern is. Keep bringing it back to the pattern, not their whole personality, not their soul, just this one specific thing that keeps happening. Sometimes a question isn't even the right tool, and what you actually need is just a line, short, clean, no speech attached to it. I'm not doing jokes at my expense tonight. Don't talk to me like that. If we can talk about this respectfully, I'm here. If not, I'm stepping away. Notice something about all three of those lines. None of them are threats. None of them are dramatic. They're just true statements about what happens next. A boundary doesn't need to be loud to be strong. It just needs to actually be followed through. If this is happening at work, that's when you start writing things down, the dates, what was said, who was there, and you use whatever process your workplace actually has for it. And if it ever starts to feel unsafe, this stops being about winning the moment at all. So get some distance and get some support, because your safety is always worth more than proving a point. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. If someone's been embarrassing you for a long time, the very first time you respond differently, they might not just quietly stop, they might actually push harder, almost like they're testing whether this new version of you is even real. Why would they do that? Because the old you had a role in their head. Maybe old you laughed it off fast, maybe old you explained too much, or apologized too much, or tried too hard, just to keep the peace. And when that role suddenly changes on them, some people don't love losing something they'd gotten used to having. This part isn't your fault, by the way. Nobody deserves to be the punching bag in someone else's joke. But patterns tend to keep going as long as there's no real cost attached to them. The moment you start responding differently, the whole system notices. Some people will genuinely adjust and get more careful with their words. Some might even feel bad and try to fix things. And some will just get irritated, because what they actually lost wasn't the joke landing, it was permission, and you just quietly took that permission back. That irritation, you might notice, is actually useful information, because it tells you the truth about what was really going on the whole time. This is where your confidence starts to shift, and not in the loud, showy way people usually picture confidence. This is the quiet kind, the kind where you're not rehearsing comebacks in your car 3 hours later, the kind where one sentence doesn't live rent-free in your head for a whole week anymore, the kind where you stop needing every single person to admit they hurt you before you're allowed to protect your own peace. You can hear the comment, pause, ask what they meant, let the silence do its job, say your line clearly and calmly, and if you need to, just walk away. And none of that requires you to become cold or cruel yourself. And that's actually the part that throws people off the most. They're ready for your anger, they're ready for your hurt feelings, they're ready for the nervous laugh or the long over-explained defense. But what they're never ready for is calm. Calm doesn't give them a scene to point at. Calm doesn't hand them proof that they got to you. Calm just quietly says, I heard exactly what you said, and now you get to own it. This isn't going to work on every single person, every single time, like some kind of magic spell, but it works often enough that people slowly learn a new lesson about you. And the lesson is simple. You're not an easy spot to dump a hidden insult. You're not available for jokes that need you to get smaller so they can land, and you're not going to fight for your own dignity inside a frame someone else built for you. You'll slow it down, you'll ask what they meant, you'll draw the line clearly, and if that line keeps getting crossed anyway, you'll simply remove yourself from the room. That's not coldness, and it's not revenge either. It's just self-respect, with a little bit of structure built underneath it. People who try to embarrass others aren't actually looking for a louder version of you to fight with. What throws them off completely is meeting a calmer, steadier version of you instead. The version that doesn't rush to fill silence. The version that doesn't over-explain just to feel safe again. The version that can let one sharp sentence sit quietly in the air, long enough for everyone in the room to notice exactly what it really was. Once you become that person, something shifts inside you too. You stop bracing for the next jab, because you finally know exactly what to do with it. You don't swallow it down, and you don't throw it back even harder. You just set it gently on the table and ask, what did you mean by that? And then you let their answer tell you everything you actually need to know. There's one more piece to all of this, and honestly, it might be the most interesting part, which is what happens to people once they realize you're not easy to rattle anymore, and how their whole behavior around you starts to quietly change. That's exactly what we're getting into in the next video, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because you really don't want to miss that one. Before you go, tell me this in the comments. Has someone ever tried to embarrass you and then hidden behind, I was just joking? What did you actually say back? And looking back now, what do you wish you'd said instead? Your story might be the exact thing that helps someone else catch this moment a lot faster next time it happens to them.